My daughter told me to choose between my home and her marriage, the house that knew my name. The sentence didn't arrive with anger. That was the part that stayed with me. No shouting, no trembling voice, no dramatic pause. Just a casual toss of words like a receipt being slid across a counter. "If you don't sell the house and help us," my daughter said, eyes still fixed on her phone, "I don't see how you can be part of our lives anymore." She scrolled as she spoke. Her thumb moved in smooth, practiced arcs. Whatever she was reading held more urgency than my answer. Her husband, Mark, sat beside her on the couch. He didn't look up. Not at me, not at her. His attention was locked on the muted television across the room, a sports panel flickering with animated mouths and crawling headlines. I waited. Not because I didn't understand, I did, but because some part of me still believed there must be more. A clarification, a softening, a follow-up. That would explain why my own daughter had just reduced 42 years of my life to a bargaining chip. But nothing came. The kettle whistled in the kitchen, shrill and insistent. I stood, turned it off, and poured the water over the tea bag with a steadiness that surprised me. I had practiced steadiness for decades. I carried my cup back into the living room and sat in the armchair opposite them. His chair, really. My husband's. The fabric was worn, thin where his elbow had rested every evening after work. The house still remembered his weight. "I want to make sure I understand," I said. My daughter sighed, the sound sharp with impatience. "It's not complicated, Mom." That word "mom" landed differently than it used to. Once it had meant safety. Now it felt procedural. "We're drowning," she continued. "The business isn't taking off the way we planned. The mortgage is killing us." Mark's parents already helped as much as they could. Mark nodded faintly without looking away from the screen. "And your solution," I said carefully, "is for me to sell my house." She finally looked up then. Not with cruelty, with certainty. "Yes." I looked around the room. The framed photo by the window, my husband, Thomas, holding our daughter on his shoulders at the county fair. She had been 7, missing 2 front teeth. Laughing so hard, her whole body had tilted sideways. The dent in the wall near the hallway where she'd thrown a ball indoors, despite being told not to. The floorboard by the stairs that creaked in a familiar way, announcing every late-night return, every early morning departure. "I've lived here 42 years, I said. She shrugged. So? So, that was it. Not "I know," not "I understand." Just so. Mark cleared his throat. "It's not like you'd be on the street," he said. "You could downsize. Somewhere smaller. More manageable. More manageable." Like I was an object that had grown inconvenient. "This house is paid off," I said. "I paid every mortgage payment myself. Even when your father was sick." "I know," she said quickly. "And that's amazing. But that's kind of the point. You have equity. We don't." I waited for the word "help" to be followed by choice. It wasn't. "This isn't about money," she added, as if reading from a script. "It's about family, about sacrifice." Mark finally turned toward me. His smile was tight, practiced. "We just need you to be on our side," he said. I studied their faces. They were young, tired, stressed. I could see that. But I could also see something else. Expectation. Not hope. Not request. Entitlement. "What happens if I say no?" I asked. The room shifted. My daughter's jaw tightened. Her eyes filled almost instantly. She'd always cried easily, even as a child. Back then, I used to wipe her tears and promise to fix everything. Now, she leaned forward, voice rising. "Then you're choosing a house over your own daughter," she said. "Over your future grandchildren. Over us." Mark said nothing. I felt something inside me go very still. "I'm not choosing bricks over blood," I said quietly. "I'm choosing not to be threatened." She stood abruptly. "How dare you?" she cried. "After everything we're going through? After all we've done to include you? Include me? In my own home?" I didn't argue. I didn't defend myself. I didn't raise my voice. I simply stood, walked to the bedroom, and opened the closet. I packed a single suitcase, enough clothes for a week, my toiletries, the sweater Thomas had bought me on our last anniversary, navy blue, still faintly smelling of his cologne. When I came back into the living room, suitcase in hand, they both stared. "Where are you going?" my daughter asked. "I don't know yet," I said, "but I won't stay where love comes with conditions." She scoffed. "You're bluffing." I met her eyes. "No," I said, "I'm leaving." Mark stood. "You can't just walk out." "I can't," I replied, "and I am." I paused at the door, hand on the frame. "This house buried my husband," I said. "It raised my child. It protected me when life didn't. I will not trade it for approval." Then I left. Behind me, I heard my daughter scream, not my name, but my betrayal. The place I went when I left. I slept in my car the first night. Not because I had to, because I needed to feel the leaving. I parked 2 streets away from the house, where the maple trees arched over the road like a tunnel. I turned off the engine and sat in the dark, hands resting on the steering wheel long after my knuckles stopped aching. I watched the porch light of my home glow in the distance. My home. 42 years of muscle memory told me I would go back inside, that I would apologize, not because I was wrong, but because that had always been the fastest way to restore peace. But peace had become too expensive. I reclined the seat, wrapped myself in my coat, and stared at the ceiling of the car. Sleep came in short, shallow fragments. Each time I drifted off, I dreamed of Thomas standing in the hallway, asking why I'd left the lights on. When morning came, I drove. I didn't have a destination, only distance. By noon, I checked into a modest extended stay motel near the edge of town. The clerk didn't ask questions. She slid the key card across the counter and said, "Breakfast is from 6 to 9. The room smelled faintly of disinfectant and old coffee. Beige walls, a small table, a bed that felt unfamiliar under my back. I placed my suitcase on the floor and sat on the edge of the mattress. For the first time in decades, no one needed anything from me. The silence felt loud. My phone buzzed before I'd even unpacked. "Daughter, you're really doing this?" I didn't reply. Another message followed. "Daughter, Mark says this is manipulative." I turned the phone face down. By evening, the calls began. Voicemail after voicemail, some angry, some tearful, some clipped and cold. Mark left one message, his tone tight. "You're putting us in an impossible position. We just need you to be reasonable." Reasonable. A word people use when they want compliance without accountability. I deleted the voicemails without listening to the rest. That night, I unpacked slowly, folded my clothes into the dresser, hung Thomas's sweater on the chair, placed my toothbrush in the cup by the sink. Small acts of order in a life suddenly, without structure. Before bed, I opened my laptop and logged into my email. There it was, the document I hadn't touched in years. Senior Residential Protection Addendum, filed and approved. I hadn't added it out of paranoia. I'd added it after Thomas's illness. During those long months of hospital rooms and hushed consultations, I'd watched families fracture over money, over control, over fear disguised as concern. One afternoon, while Thomas slept, a hospital social worker had sat beside me. "You should consider legal protections," she'd said gently, "especially if your home is paid off." "For what?" I'd asked. "For pressure," she replied, "from anyone." I hadn't thought of my daughter then, but I'd signed the papers anyway. The clause was simple and firm. Any attempt to force, coerce, or manipulate the sale or